What up, everybody? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Johnny Ray, and we have some recurring members and some new people with us today. So we have Dawson, the man Gibb over here,
Hello.
and then we also got back with us today, recurring Dave, brother
Hola,
Dave,
¿cómo estás?
and then someone new with us here today is we got Katie Guns. I'm just kidding. I forgot your last name, Katie, but
Hello.
she's visiting and here on the show with us for the first time. So, what's popping off, Dawson?
So, first of all, thank you guys for watching this episode of The Basement. Today, we're kind of recollecting our memories and just kind of sharing some stories, sharing some laughs, hopefully, some good memories of our late Pastor Fell, who passed away late last month. So I just want to, just ask you guys how you guys first met Pastor Fell, or your first experience with Pastor Fell.
First off, before you guys get into you guys' stories, I just want to let you guys know that Pastor Fell was like, obviously he's been pastoring this church for a while, and I think one thing that I always hear coming up is that he's been here a lot longer than people had expected him to be, right? But this church just seems so much like a family with him here. So we just wanted you guys to be able to share your stories with us, and whether make you laugh, make you cry, just be honest, be upfront, just so that way the viewers out there know how special he was to us. Dave?
Sheesh, man. Well, my first memory of Pastor Phil, or just what he touched, was I started coming to this church in the year of 2014, and one thing that I noticed there at this church was just the multicultural of the several cultures that were here at this church. Sort of reminds me of a bit of what is going to be in heaven. It's not just predominantly like Hispanic or black or white. It's just we have folks from different backgrounds, different ages, and so um I remember the first time I met him, Lucen actually introduced me to him, and of course he was warm, like, hey, what are you doing here, just welcome me, and he was just asking me, about myself and stuff like that, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous at first to meet him, but I actually felt comfortable talking to him.
Was he one of the first people you met in the church?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, I actually met him a few weeks after, just because I myself am a pretty shy person, at least back then. And Lucen actually was like, "You gotta meet Pastor Phil." I was like, "What? No. Yeah, come follow me." I was like, "Okay, cool." And I met Pastor Phil, and I was just like, "Man, I can talk to this guy. He's a pastor, but like, it didn't matter."
Yeah, it didn't seem like he was like
Yeah.
above anybody.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, man, I didn't have a grandpa, but you can talk to this guy, like,
Yeah, and that's when you first met him,
yeah,
and conversation was just short.
yeah.
Like,
It was
but-
pretty brief, but I was just like, wow, like I like this,
But
you.
he always had this way of like giving you, like, even if your conversations were brief, right? He had this way of like still making it seem like he cared
Yeah,
to
right,
just talk to you, right?
right.
All right.
So
What about you, Katie?
The question was that
What-
what was your earliest memory?
Yeah,
okay.
just like your first
first memory
experience.
of Pastor Fell.
My first memory, he was my pastor my whole life, right? So like 28 years. So my first memory would probably just be when we were here in the sanctuary. And as a kid, you're like, oh, I gotta go to a big church now, and you gotta sit there, and you don't like understand as much as like primary, when they're singing the kids' songs. But
How old were you, if you don't mind me asking?
like baby, like from my whole life.
Yeah, but
His mem-
your memory
Oh.
that you're sharing.
Probably like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5
Whoa.
kinder class area. And I remember always coming and listening to him, and he just had this peaceful like
Yeah.
tone of voice when he would
Yeah.
talk. And like Dave was saying, kind of like how a grandfather,
Yeah.
you know, would be to you. Like that's how I viewed
Yeah.
him. So not just like my pastor, but like
Yeah.
a grandfather figure.
Yeah.
Like a familial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone very approachable, you know.
Yeah.
So that's a cool perspective, just because like she's saying, been a pastor her whole life, and she's known him since she was this little tiny girl. And you're giving a perspective. You came here in 2014.
Yeah, 2014.
14.
Yeah, he actually rebaptized me, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
I actually have a funny story about that because, I mean, as you can see, I'm a big guy, you know, I'm not petite. Anyways, I felt bad because Pastor Phil, if you guys know him, he's not necessarily frail or anything, but compared to me, he might appear to be, you know.
I want to say he's appeared to be frail.
Yeah.
But that man was a very strong man.
I second that. But I said,
Remember this
with me next to him,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I remember, you know, Pastor Phil, you know, took me down. I was just like, hey, man, I got to have faith, you know? And so we went for the dip, and it feels like he didn't have me. And so I just remember, like, my foot just going out, like, wah, you know? And then, like, I was just like, but yeah, no,
Wait, did you really fall?
Yeah, I
Yeah, he
fell.
went back.
I fell.
He
Yeah,
went
I
back.
wish it was recorded. You
I
know,
want to say there's a couple of
There's a couple of people.
a couple of people who are bigger
Yeah.
than Pastor Fowl had anticipated.
uh,
Some brothers have been double dipped because of
Yeah.
You got to be double.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
they had some extra sin they needed to get off them. So.
yeah, you know, I was just too excited to get there to the bottom of the water, you know. So I just like, let me go, Pastor. But no, so yeah, I mean, Pastor Phil recovered though, and I was just like, oh man, like
I do remember seeing water come up.
Yeah.
The water come up.
I'm surprised it didn't splash over me.
Dave, I remember watching
Yeah.
that happen and
Oh.
thinking, like, this is going to be a double collateral right here.
Yeah.
They're both going to go down.
Yeah.
We're going to have to fish them out.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, both of you.
Yeah, you know, but yeah, Pastor Phil did it, you know.
Did Pastor Fowl baptize all of us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wait, what year did you say you got baptized?
I got baptized in 2015, February 28th, I believe, or 27th,
Okay.
2015.
I think I was in 14 or 15.
Yeah, you were
I was-
14, like in November or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, I had the same thing though. I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, I'm taking him down for sure. Like, I was so scared. And I remember like that moment of like when you went under, you're like, okay, I gotta help get up. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta help him pull me up.
I want to say I had that same feeling,
But he pulled
but
me
when
like
he
nothing.
when he dunked me, and then I'm all thinking like I forgot. Even somebody told me, okay, you know, Pastor Fowl's like, you know, they almost made it sound he's a little bit older. Okay, so
Yeah.
you know, make sure you help come back up out of the water. And I was going to. I even had my foot braced back like this, and then next thing I know, I just feel him go whoop, pop me back up, and I
Yeah.
was like, okay.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
need that.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Dawson? What's your earliest memory? And he's been your pastor your whole life
So-
as well, right?
Yeah. So we're, my family, we're like generational here. My parents,
Oh, geez.
yeah, like for my mother and my father, like they have also, that has been their pastor for
Wow.
as long as they remember.
Wow.
Or I guess the majority of their lives. They came
They were a part
from
of
Linwood,
the youth
the
ministry.
OG group.
right?
Yeah. This is a while ago, of course. But
Yeah, because you're a full grown man now.
yes, somewhat. So, I mean, I think my earliest was, we used to do this every year, and I don't know if some of you guys remember, we used to do like 4th of July celebrations.
Yeah.
I heard about them.
Yeah,
Like the
we would.
summer
Yeah, and we
festival
would do
thing?
like
Yeah.
we would do like barbecues, and like we would
Those
get
are
like
so
a giant
fun.
bounce house, and
I want to
Wow.
let you know that this side of the stage, unintentionally,
Yeah.
we met Pastor Fowl as young adults,
Yeah.
and
you can still enjoy a bounce
you
house.
guys, no, you guys knew him your whole life.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
stuff that you remember, we
Yeah.
don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, my timeline's kind of
It's
messed
like-
up, but yeah, like so, like we would do like those
Yeah.
barbecues, and I remember this one specific barbecue. This has to be like 2005 or 2004.
That's your first memory of him?
That was like, this is like one of my like more prominent go-to ones.
Okay.
We were outside and we're grilling, and I remember thinking like, I'm like a young kid. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get some food. So I ran over to like where they were grilling underneath the patio, and I see Pastor Fell at the grill, like throwing down. This man was throwing down Boca burgers. This man was throwing beef burgers, And I run up to him, and he's like, Dawson, do you want one? And I was like, okay. And he served me up. But I remember just thinking like,
Boca or beef?
Who knows?
He doesn't recall.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I just remember like him doing that, and honestly, like you guys said, like this is like family member. It's just I'm at a family dinner, at a family outing, and like my grandpa is just serving me food.
Yeah.
He was always like one of those people that if you saw like out or even at potluck, you wanted to go like talk to him.
Yeah, say hi.
How you doing, Pastor Fell? And he was so welcoming and warm, like talking to you, and he would approach you too and just ask how you're doing.
I would always wonder how somebody so busy could still find time to say hi to people who wanted to say hi to him.
And not even just that, but like his, I mean, there's been a lot of people that have come through this church over time. He remembers like all of them.
Yeah.
My memory is nowhere near that good.
From what I understand, he's baptized over 3 generations.
Wow.
And so when I thought of that, and man, I know you can't hope that someone can live forever, but I was hoping he'd live long enough to baptize my kids too. That was just my hope. But I want to say my earliest memory of Pastor Fell is I met him through Lewiston, and I was still kind of new in the church. I had come to church because my old neighbors, Karen and Raymond, they lived across the street from me. They invited me like for so many years, and then finally when I was like, I've been studying the Adventist faith and I want to go to church, and so then when I moved back from Hawaii, this is the only church that I had ever knew of because I was invited here so many times. So I first walked through the door. I sat with them, and I think I was so excited just to know people in a church because that's never happened my whole life. If my parents took me to a church, I didn't know people there. I think at one point in time I had started to get to know the kids around me but we never were consistent enough to where I knew kids. And so I was happy that I was like, I know people here. Like I knew Michael, I knew Nathan, I knew Eric and all them. And then a little bit longer into the church, and I realized that I had never officially met the pastor. I sat in the pew, I listened to them, and I mingled with people that I got introduced to at potluck, but I hadn't met the pastor of the church. And then one day I was talking to Lewiston, and Lewiston was still a new person to me, and this is probably back in 2009. He was like, oh, come with me, we're gonna meet Pastor Fell. And this is like shortly after like kind of being asked to be a part of the youth ministry. And then I was like, meet the pastor of this church. You've been here for a few months and you still haven't like met him. So when I met him, I shook his hand, and he was like, Johnny, my man, I heard so much about you. And it's like,
that sounds just like him.
Yeah. He gave me I went to shake his hand, and my dad taught me how to give a good handshake. Make connection all the way to here and look directly in their eyes and give a good firm grip to let them know that, whatever you mean business or about, it's a good quality to have in a good handshake. And the first thing he said to me, wow, what an amazing handshake. and after I shook his hand, I thought the same thing because I could swear that his handshake was overpowering mine. Yeah. He had a strong handshake. Firm.
Absolutely
handshake.
Firm. Yeah.
And I just looked at him because I just thought like the strength in his handshake didn't match what I initially thought of him because he was an older gentleman. And so he really gave me a firm handshake, and he was like, oh, nice to welcome on board. Yeah, Lucian's telling me about this team, and I remember him talking to me, and I was excited that something's starting up and that we're being a part of something. But I couldn't get over the grip of this guy's handshake the whole first time I had met him, and I was just thinking like, wow, like I could still feel like how tight he had grabbed my hand, and he was like acting like he admired my handshake, but I could not get over his. And I think later on he was like, yeah, I grew up milking cows, so that's
Makes sense.
yeah, that's where the grip came from, milking cows. Yeah, I couldn't believe it, but I think that was my first interaction with Pastor Fell. And when my dad says that, your first handshake with somebody, like, it's kind of like a first impression or whatever. The first impression Pastor Fell left on me was he may look like a weak old man, but this man is strong, and definitely gave me the idea that he was a leader. I want to say that's the very first thing I thought.
That kind of leads me into a question. It sounds like we all have our stories of Pastor Fell. What kind of significance did he have for you guys? Like, what kind of impact did he have on you?
Man, like I said earlier about things that he touched, I feel like if he had, of course, God's presence, in this church, moving through people and stuff, definitely played a big part. But I also believe Pastor Phil's leadership, and allowing people to grow and stuff, really had an impact on me, in the sense of I've been growing up Seventh-day Adventist. I've been to so many Seventh-day Adventist churches. I've met so many pastors, and like I said, I felt, like, I don't want to meet the pastor, I felt kind of shy and stuff, but no, he was really approachable. I came to Whittier and I met a family, something that I personally did not experience at other churches. Not saying it's not there, but I personally never experienced it until I came to Whittier. And it made me want to stay. It rejuvenated my interest in God. Made me want to have let's do this again.
I still think it's funny you thought we were weird.
Yeah, I still think you guys were weird.
You thought we were
Yeah.
weird because you'd never seen a church family like that.
Yeah.
It's funny.
And I know Pastor Phil had a lot to do with that.
Mhm.
Because it starts from the top.
Definitely. I think he made everyone feel like he was the head of the family and kind of
Right.
tied everyone together. Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, but I'll go ahead and answer the impact. I think for me, the impact of just guidance throughout my whole spiritual life, from being a kid, until now as an adult. And then definitely like when I got baptized, I remember him reaching out a lot and asking how I was doing. When I was going through the Bible studies for that to get baptized. And then even more recently, like over the holidays, he had called me to check in, see how I was doing. And so like I've been a deaconess in training for years. And I don't know. So he had noticed that and he was like, I don't know why, I'm so sorry. Let's get you officiated or whatever the proper term is. But he was always looking at, what's going on and what can I do to help someone or spiritually, kind of guide them. And I think that was the biggest impact for me is just the constant like guidance, like even if you saw him, he would just, how are you doing? And, if you were having some sort of trouble, he would, quote you scripture and just help you.
Yeah.
So
Kind of adding to what you both said. In my like high school and into like my early years of college, I like bounced around a lot of different churches. And this was how I knew like this church had something special because I like out of all the different churches I went to, I never ever like was ever greeted by like the pastor. Maybe a couple people in the audience, but like not to have him wait at the doors, so you can't escape him. You know,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that.
like
Yeah.
that was one thing that would like draw me back.
Yeah.
Like even amidst like bouncing around, because I mean, there's other
Yeah.
churches, and like what I was looking for was like more of like a different style of worship service, more contemporary. But like all the churches I would go to, I just, like you said, I couldn't feel the connection.
Impersonal.
Yeah, it was very, very impersonal. And to have like the pastor, the guy that speaks up here in the pulpit, the head guy, be out there waiting for you, like, oh, how you doing?
Yeah,
Nice to
some
see
guys
ya.
just disappear behind the stage,
Yeah.
and then you don't see them.
Yeah, you don't see
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. The thing is with that too, it felt as if though it was very genuine as well. Like it wasn't just like, oh, my pastor duties, No, it felt like he
Like he wanted to know, like he
right,
did care.
right, And I was talking to Johnny earlier. I was like, another thing that I used to appreciate would be whenever we had to go, we had a part, in divine worship or whatever. And we'd be over there waiting in the back, and Pastor Phil would be there, greeting us as we got there, and he's like, oh, he'd be going through the list. Oh, so and so is not here yet. Like, oh, can you call him or something like that, And again,
Yeah.
very composed. Mind you, we have like 2-3 minutes, but he'd be composed, just
Yeah,
calm.
the rest of the
Like,
staff that makes
yeah.
this thing work going together,
Yeah.
they'd be freaking out, but he'd
Yeah.
be like, just
Oh,
give
okay.
him a call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just and like I said, he just seemed like always composed, just gentle person to be around. Very approachable. Like I said, I can't say that enough.
I want to say that I probably never really met a pastor, and I might get flack for it. Maybe other pastors do, but I've never seen a pastor know everybody in his congregation by name and by family, and know whose kids. And I know our pastor definitely did. And I want to say the biggest impact and things that I've seen from Pastor Fowl is that when we started the youth ministry, I didn't really grow up going to church that much. I was like in and out as a kid, but I mean, like being involved with the church, I never really knew what that entailed. And then beginning to be a part of a youth ministry, I was kind of like, okay, like, do we do it on our own? Like, and there is a good handful of people that don't really believe in young people leading other young people, because they're like, well, they're young, and so then so like they're easily um, not distracted, but like persuaded to believe other things and bring different beliefs into church, and you get discredited a lot for being younger.
Right.
You know what I mean? And all within reason, I guess. But Pastor Fell didn't look at us and think that. He did give us someone to oversee us for a little bit, and that was Karen. But that's because she was a part of the youth ministry for so long. She just wanted to see if we were capable of taking over. But she pretty much just sat back and was like, "Take the reins. It's your turn to do it." So me, Lustin, and we had Michelle at the time, and Vicky. Were all youth leaders at the time, and I've never seen a pastor have so much back for a youth ministry like that. Like, he was just like, what do you guys want to do? And if we all came up with like a legitimate plan step by step, and Lucin's like, look, if you give him the game plan, he's gonna back you, because he's gonna know you thought about it. He's gonna know that you have reason for it and that God's putting it in your heart to do it. And so we'd come to him with the game plan, and he'd be like, how much money do you guys need? Do we need to fundraise? Do we need to do that? Do we do that? He didn't just back us by saying, sure, go ahead, figure it out. He backed us by seeing what we needed, and pretty much put his money where his mouth was.
Right.
And that was,
He supported
Yeah.
supported you like how a family member would.
One of the things that some I noticed is that he saw kids as not just the future of the church, but also the present, And so the children's ministry over here is just very alive and stuff under his leadership. I've seen kids like come up here to do sermons and everything. I'm like, man, and kids are capable. And Pastor Phil, has helped, so many kids throughout. Like Lewiston, for example, like
Shout out Lewiston, by the way.
right,
Wherever
Shout
he
out.
is,
Whoop, whoop.
shout out.
I mean, Pastor Feld, under his leadership, taking so many other young people under his wings, and they've blossomed. I imagine some of them aren't here anymore, but
That's one thing I always like really respected and appreciated
uh,
about him was like how much of like a I guess like a passion he had for helping the youth
right,
in the church
right,
because
right.
like back when like I would be really involved in like music
Mhm.
here and whatnot, he would always like after every time we would play, he would always, oh, Dawson, that was really great. Can't wait for the next one. What are you guys playing next time? You know, when are you gonna go up there and play something on your own? And I was just like, being 10-year-old me, like, I don't know. You're gonna have to ask my mom. I don't know. I don't know about that. But
Yeah,
just seeing how much he,
You need parental rights first.
for real, I permission slip.
yeah,
If you
yeah,
give my mom a permission slip.
yeah,
But just, I mean, and he's always been like that, just
yeah,
always constantly pushing to see if, how can we get, the youth
Yeah.
involved? How can we get the kids involved,
yeah.
And I mean, you're a prime example of how can we get the youth involved?
I second that. I remember, well, anyone who knows me from when I was little can tell you I was the shyest kid probably ever. Like, even the Lopez's.
Mm.
Like, I would, I've known them my whole life. When I would stay with them for church, like on the weekends, I would stay the weekend with them. I was so shy. I would not like go eat by myself, and I would hardly talk to them. And I grew up with them. Like, I've known them my entire life too. And I think Pastor Fell kind of helped, with the youth, like push me to kind of, like talk in front of church.
Mm.
He would ask me to do scripture reading for the day or announcements. I think one time he had me do something small so I would get out of my comfort zone and grow. And I think that's one thing I'm really grateful for too, is him kind of, believing in me and kind of helping push me out to have that confidence, So it's definitely something that I value of him.
So like we mentioned earlier, he's been the pastor here and at Linwood for 50 plus years, but he's been in ministry for, I want to say 61 years. So longer than all of us have been alive.
I just want to throw something in there. After the memorial, I had no idea that Pastor Fowl was a skater.
Yeah.
Like,
Really?
yeah,
He's really
like
good.
a roller skater.
I had no idea
Oh.
either.
He had a full like suit and everything.
Yeah.
And when they showed the picture of him,
Yeah,
he was the real deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea, dude.
Yeah, I
That like
had
blew
no
my
idea.
mind. Put a big smile on
That's
my
how
face.
humble he was, though. He would never just
talk
throw
about it.
stuff out. Yeah,
Just
never.
like, oh, whatever. What was I saying? Oh yeah. How do you guys think he was able to remain in ministry, especially in a leadership role for this long?
I think it was the connections he built with all of us. I think he viewed all of us as his family too, and watching us all grow and start families of our own and just grow before him, I think helped keep pushing him.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave?
Shoot. Honestly, I just don't know, because even just for myself, being involved in ministry, just getting burnt out sometimes on, the many things that a pastor has to do apart from his own personal life, like,
It's a lot of juggling.
right? And to do it for so long, and just in my opinion, he was really good at it. I definitely think it's just his love for God as well,
Mm.
and just trying to share God with people, I would say that would be one of the biggest things, or the biggest to drive him,
I want to say Pastor Phil had long suffering, because there's a lot of people who've came and gone from this church. There's a lot of people that I'm sure he prayed for all the way to the very end. And he, I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of people who came in and out of the church. There's people who've been sitting in the church that he knew where their hearts were, and he knew that they were hurting. He knew that they weren't turning to God, and he knew that, he knew a lot of our situations. And if you got to talk to him for a little bit, I mean, sometimes you'd vent a little bit or something like that, and he would let you know he's praying for you. But that man definitely had long suffering, and he definitely had a heart for his entire church family. And I remember in his memorial, and that guy from the conference was talking. He said, they gave him the opportunity to be like, hey, you've been here for a while, so you want to switch up and go somewhere else, start where new. He told him nope. Told him nope right off the bat, because he knew his mission was here. And I think what separated Pastor Fell from in that moment is that Pastor Fell knew where God was calling him to be, and they knew that he knew he was called to be the head of this church family.
I think one thing about like that helped him remain, I guess, sane, as a leader for that long, was the fact that he didn't necessarily see himself as like, oh yeah, you're the top guy, you're the head guy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just talking to him and seeing how he was with people, after church, in potluck, in the gym. Honestly, he was just, one of us, just chit chatting it up, like no big deal. I don't think he ever really let, like, it was more of just like a title that he had been given, and he would run with it. I don't like, because I mean, I've seen where, like, pastors act pastorally, and it kind of shows. But like for him, it was just like he was of the congregation, speaking with them.
Yeah.
That's how his sermons felt.
Yeah. Although there was this one time I was in the office with him in Lewiston, and Lewiston and I were talking to him like, hey, we need this and this to happen, but certain people won't budge, and I don't think it's going to happen. And then Pastor Fell looked calmly at Lewiston, and he goes, I'll take care of it. And then I want to say with like a confidence of a mob boss.
I would be slightly scared
Yeah.
if I heard him say something.
He dude, honestly,
Because he was so calm.
he is literally like, his presence was like a godfather.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just so calm,
In
but
that
so
moment,
confident.
that's what I felt.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I looked at Lewiston, and Lewiston's like, all right.
Yeah.
And then I was all thinking like, oh, okay, Lewiston, so we're still going to take care of it? He goes, oh, Pastor Fell said he was going to take care of it. And I was like, okay, all right. But that was probably the only time that I've ever seen him like just have that like step out in confidence and the thing. But he was like you said, he was always part of the congregation, like from the congregation, and definitely agree with that.
What characteristics of Christ do you think he portrayed?
Patience.
100%. 100%.
Very tender, I would say. For me personally, when I imagine God, I just imagine this person that's not necessarily soft-spoken in the sense of timid, but just somebody who's confident, very nurturing, someone that cares for you, that you're important to them as well. That's that type, a thing that I feel like he would give off, that in my opinion, reflected God.
I want to say one thing that stood out to me was that the Bible when the Pharisees were trying to trap Jesus, and they asked him like, what is the most important commandment? And Jesus said, there's two. There's love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and the other one's like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And I want to say that Pastor Fel portrayed those very well. And I want to say that everybody saw that.
Well said. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like after every sermon, he would talk to people, but he would remember what's going on with people. Like he could go from like talking to you, Dave, about your week and, asking you like, oh, well, how did that go? And then like he could talk to me like immediately after and ask me like a very specific detail about my life. Like, oh, like you like, didn't you have like a test on Thursday? And like that would always surprise me.
Yeah.
Because he would know like down
Yeah.
to the detail, and he would ask like
Yeah.
he wouldn't even get the days wrong. He would ask me about school, like, oh, like did you pass that test like you said, or were you able to finish your lab? Like, I don't think so. Like, I don't remember. Thanks for reminding me. Actually,
I gotta go study.
Yeah.
I gotta leave early today. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, I remember that about him too.
Yeah, it's just I think like that, like you said, about
Yeah.
loving your neighbor. I it's like that's just
Yeah.
right on the dot. Do you guys think his impact is long lasting here?
I believe it is. I mean, he changed the culture. Well, I don't want to say changed the culture because I don't know how it was before, but at least
Yes, he did.
the culture in the sense of what I thought church was before. I mean, I'm still here. He, in my belief, he definitely changed the culture of what church was to me, and so yeah.
I want to say even earlier on, we were listening to like Marilyn kind of give her words for Pastor Fell, and one thing that really stood out was just that he was he had good connections with people.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that like anybody who's a leader in a church of any kind, if you're the head deacon, if you're whatever, that's something you strive for to be, because you don't want to be the guy in the church that I mean, you're sitting there and yeah, you're nice to everybody, but you don't want it to be just surface nice, because Pastor Fell wasn't surface nice. Like he genuinely was. He genuinely cared. And I think that's one thing that I think he's instilled in a lot of people, and the people he's mentored. Like one of his last mentored people is Leuston, and Leuston, I feel like, has a lot of great qualities that Pastor Felt has like kind of not like taught him, but kind of just showed by example. And I think Leuston's a great leader because of his example. And of course, Leuston's other leader example is God, but I mean, like they had the same other leader, So
Yeah. I think he's left a lasting impression on all of us here that we will carry on to then kind of replicate and how the church moves forward here.
Yeah, I think he's always kind of. I mean, he's always been. He's always been about the people. The people in his congregation.
Yeah.
Just for people in general.
Yeah.
I mean, he. Like back when it was still Linwood, like he's the one who asked both of my parents, can you guys be the youth leaders? And then I guess you could kind of say that because he asked that, I am the product of that. So he kind of, in a sense, hooked up my parents so that I'm here.
I did
In a
not
sense.
know that.
you're the fruit.
I'm the fruits. Yeah. So
Phil knew what he was doing, bro.
I guess, I guess he had vision.
He was matchmaking.
I guess he was a
Pretty much,
matchmaker.
Yeah, another role,
Pre Tinder, pre Bumble.
man of
You,
many
you know
talents.
what? You know what I want to say. That Pastor Fowl was. Pastor Fowl had sat me and my wife down, and he made us take this compatibility test. And he said, "I know this is going to be hard for you, Johnny, but you're going to have to be in a separate room than your fiance right now." And I was like, "Okay." So he locked the door in between. I was in the front office, and my now wife was in his office. So we're taking this compatibility test on paper, and we're taking our time. I'm a very slow reader, so it took me longer to take my test than my wife did. And the funny thing was, and he goes, "All right, Johnny, my man, we'll see if you're compatible." And then I looked at him, and I was kind of like,
Oh,
I said, "Pastor Fell, what if I'm not?"
That's scary, man.
Like, what if this test tells me I'm not compatible? And then he goes, "Then we'll go from there."
He's like, we'll cross that bridge when we need
I
to.
started laughing, so I'm like, okay.
He's
So we
just
took
keeping
the
it real.
test. Oh yeah. He was a joker. I want to say that Pastor Fell. You think of people who are pastors, you think that they don't have any sense of humor. This guy had
Oh yeah.
a very good sense of
Oh,
humor.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
And so he had me kind of like in suspense, and he kept on doing this, like writing check marks on the paper, right? And I'm all thinking like, checks are bad, okay?
I'm failing this test right now.
Were you
And this
sweating?
wasn't even like a test where you got graded A, B, or C. This is like to see if I'm compatible with somebody I picked to be my life partner.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, okay. So then he goes, "All right, so what do you want, the good news or the bad news?" And
Oh no.
I'm like, I want.
There's a bad
Yeah, I was like, I want the good news. He goes, "You guys are very compatible," and I was like, "Yes."
What was the
Yes,
bad
that's
news?
good. The bad news was we both were insecure in the same areas.
Oh, boy.
So there's something that we both needed to work on, and something that he told me he would definitely pray for me for. And then I asked him, "What were all the big check marks?" And he goes, "I just saw you sitting there, and I thought it'd be funny to freak you out." I was like,
Thanks, it worked.
Yeah, it made me laugh, and yeah, because I saw you watching so closely, I just figured we'll watch your reaction when I write a big check mark across the top.
His humor.
I wish I still had those papers just because it would have reminded me of another good memory.
Kind of just sharing another good memory. He was always like honestly like kind of dapper, like the way he dressed. Like I think
Oh yeah,
he was always fresh with it,
very
you know.
clean. So fresh and so clean.
So fresh and so clean. He had this black members only jacket, and he would wear that sometimes. Like afterwards, he would like honestly he would do like a Mr. Rogers where he would like shed the suit, change shoes,
It's a
and
beautiful day
he would
in
throw
the
on
neighborhood.
absolutely, and he would throw on like a members only jacket and a cap, and he would just like walk around and chill like that. I remember this one time I told him, I was like, "Hey, Pastor Fell, like that's a really cool jacket.
Yeah.
Like I like it." And he straight up told me like, "You should get one so we can match, and then we can both be members only." And I was like, "Word, word." Yeah, but yeah, he had a great sense of humor,
Yeah.
and he's very fresh,
Oh yeah.
very clean.
I wanted to just say one thing. Us, we all know we're believers, and we know that one day we'll see Pastor Fell again, and we'll also be in the presence of our Savior. But if you could, what would have been one last thing that you could have said to him?
I think thank you for all the guidance and love he's given to all of us, not just myself. Thank you, and just let him know how much I valued him and like really loved him. Like when I had heard the news, I never sobbed so hard in my life. Like even, I mean, I cry from, when my old family members have passed, but I think his passing hit me harder just because that's gonna be something that you miss, like the relationship you have, and the guidance.
Yeah.
So I would tell him thank you.
Dave.
Sheesh, man. Why you gotta put me on the spot? Shoots, man. Man. To be quite honest, I'm lost of words right now, man. But I would just want to give him a hug,
Mm-hmm.
And just like what Katie said, just thank you and just let him know how much I appreciated him. And I'm not good with words, man, but just a simple hug,
I'd have to agree. That that man has been there for my family, me and my family for so long. When my father when he was first diagnosed with end stage kidney failure, we knew he was going to need dialysis, but a lot of times the outlook for that isn't too great. So he anointed my father, and he was there for that. And then a couple years ago, he anointed my father again when we found out he had cancer. He gave the eulogy for my grandfather when he passed, for my uncle when he was killed. But he's just been there for my family, so I think I would tell him thanks, honestly. Thank you, and I would make sure I would let him know how much of an impact he's had, not just for me, but just for my family in general. 'Cause he's been there. He's been the guy. So
I want to say that when I found out that Pastor Fell was in the hospital, my first thoughts were, he won't be in there long. Not because he was going to pass away, but because I just believed he was so much stronger than that. That was just my thought process. This man who's got a nice, strong, firm handshake. Like I said, my first thoughts of him was what a leader, how strong he was. And even in the moments where they tell me he's in the hospital, I'm not thinking he won't be there long. He'll be out. He'll be here at the church before you know it, still doing his thing. And when Luston's still helping run the church, he'll be in the background making sure everything goes right.
Mm-hmm.
And when I found out that he passed away, a part of me was just in shock, like I couldn't believe it. And Dave, you texted me that morning. You're the one who let me know. And then I started getting other text messages to confirm. But I remember just being in shock and just thinking, God must have really known that his time was there. And from what I hear, he was still being his normal self all the way till the end, still kind of joking around, still having his sense of humor, and still having his faith in God. And I think what it proved to me was that he was even stronger than I thought, because he wasn't freaking out, that he knew he was sick and didn't know if he was going to get better. He was stronger than I thought because he was still faithful. And what I would tell him, if I had a chance to tell him, is I love him. And just like all you guys, let him know that just want to say thank you. He's been there for me personally. He dedicated my daughter to this church, baptized me, baptized my ex-wife, and he still loved me even when I was going through my stuff and was not showing up to church consistently, but he was always calling me. And that's how you know you have someone in your life who really cares. So I would say thank you. And I think with that, I'm going to say we're going to wrap up this conversation in prayer. If you guys don't mind bowing your heads with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for blessing us with this beautiful day, Lord. Lord, just thank you for all of our hearts here being able to share stories of your servant, Lord. Lord, you blessed us with having this amazing pastor, and you've put your love and your spirit inside of him, and he's shared it with us, God. And may everything good and every great gift that you gave Pastor Fal that he shared with us, Lord, may we keep it in our hearts, and may we share it with others and pass it down, pass it forward, God. We pray that you be with every single one of us here as we leave this, and let us all remember our great memories that we have of Pastor Fal. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.